Record. Okay, recording is there. And on this beautiful, beautiful snowy day, woohoo! I got Mazel Tov to Julie and Mark on the birth of a grandson this week. Beautiful, great news. Um, and please wish me luck tomorrow. I have Yoshi taking a road test. So while I'm very happy about that because then I can relieve myself of some driving duties. But it's always a stressful time. Okay, we're getting to some more. Again, a lot of the rest of the book is pretty boring. Just being transparent, being honest, it's not that exciting because it's a lot of division of property. So I'll put the text on the screen. Okay, this way, everybody, if you don't have the copy, I will put it there. Let's see. Let's name again. Let me see if it's there. Yes. Oh, you know what? I'm not on this computer, so I have to. Yes. I realize I'm not on my computer, so.
What would be up to?
We're on chapter 18, so you know what? It's not letting me share my screen because this is not my computer. Yeah, chapter 18 in Yehoshua. It's scintillating, this material. So we saw the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh and Yosef and their demand, and he said, okay, you have plenty of place. You have to just go and conquer it. We're going to see a little bit more of that where Yehoshua says, like, you guys should have done something already by now. And others not. And it's easy to understand is that people are coming from this sort of everything's been given to us attitude. We're 40 years in the desert, or at least our ancestors were, or maybe we're there for part of it. And, we had food that showed up at our front door every day, and we had water that flowed to our tents every day, and our shoes we never outgrew them, all these things. So there comes a time when they have to say out loud this 4-letter word. It's called work, which is hard for a lot of people. So here, look what he says here. Vayikalu kol adas b'nei Yisrael Shiloh. So after now remember they've already conquested like pretty much the lower half of the country, from the center of the country and lower, the center including Samaria, the Shomron. So we say Shiloh is obviously a very, very important part because in Shiloh, which is in Ephraim, the Mishkan was there for 369 years. If you're anybody going to Israel, and if you're looking for a cool activity, Shelly, don't listen to this. Then I would highly, highly recommend going to the museum in Shiloh, where they know the place where the Mishkan was, and they have this beautiful digital 3D. You kind of like you go there and you see what it looked like as you look around. It's really cool.
Maybe they have a virtual exhibit.
They do, by the way, they absolutely do. They do. When I did it in my Gemara Shiur, I was during COVID when we were up to it, and online we did the tour of the Mishkan in Shiloh. They have okay, so you don't have to go to Israel. I want you to go to Israel, but if you don't go to Israel and you want to go online, if you just Google Mishkan Shiloh or Shiloh Museum, and you could see it. It's really, really cool. So anyway, so they have to establish themselves a center. Now, mind you, Jerusalem is not a thing yet. Yerushalayim, which we saw a couple chapters ago, that they conquered everything except Jerusalem, which belonged to the Yevusim. They didn't get to that yet. So here they put the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting, and the land that had been conquered before them. And in the second pasuk it says, Vayashkinu sham es Moed v'haaretz b'shel lefnehem vayivasaru b'vnei Yisrael asher lo chalku es nachal asam shiv'a shivatim. But there were still 7 tribes that they didn't get. Like they didn't get their inheritance yet, or they didn't get their place yet. So now I guess normally you would think like, oh, okay, like they didn't get it, like well, they're waiting around for it. Sometimes when you wait around for something, you'll keep waiting because you have to reach out your hand and you have to extend yourself and you have to make sure that that you take what's rightfully yours. So there were 7 tribes. Vayomer Yehoshua el bnei Yisrael. Ad ana atem misrapim lavo l'reshes es haaretz asher nasan lechem Hashem Elokei avosechem. So Yeshua says, how long are you going to be lax in coming to possess the land that Hashem, the God of your fathers, has given you? Everybody else was taking their portions, again, however they knew what was theirs, and they didn't. So Yeshua actually castigates them, and he chastises them, and he says, listen, what are you waiting for? It's not gonna just fall into your lap. You have to actually go and get it. Which, if you want to put that sort of in modern terms, there's definitely that mentality when it comes to the land of Israel that we have to go and get it. It's not going to fall into your lap. Oh, and before I forget, Eileen, tell Nina we said happy birthday yesterday. Vayomer Yehoshua b'nei. So he says, how long are you going to wait? So havu lachem shlosha anashim lashavet. Va'esh lachem v'yakumu v'yishalchu ba'aretz v'yichtivu osa lefi nachalasam v'yavo elai. Notice a lot of verbs in this verse in Pasuk Dalet. So he says, let's appoint 3 people for each tribe. Let's make this happen. Let's make this work. So it's one thing, by the way, to criticize. Anybody can criticize, but when you criticize and then you give a constructive solution, that's a whole different story. So Yehoshua criticizes them, or he gets on their case, and then he gives them an advice. So he says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 3 men from each tribe. I'll dispatch them, and it says, V'eshlachem, I'll send them. V'yakumu, and they will get up. V'yishalachu ba'aretz, and they will walk in the land. V'yichtivu osam lefi nachalasam, and they will describe in writing according to each of their heritage. V'yavo elai, and then they will come back and report to me. So it's almost like a miniature Meraglim type of exercise, but a lot of activity. He's like, sometimes people need very, very specific instructions. Okay? I said this once before, like years ago, and I got in trouble for it. But like when I get sent to the supermarket, I need very, very specific instruction, because it's like, okay, go get lettuce. And then I walk into ShopRite, and there's like 96 types of lettuce there. I'm like, well, which one? Do one organic or not organic, and this and butter leaf and this, okay? And then when you finally find the right one, and then you say, is this good or is it not good? Now, the secret is that sometimes we mess up on purpose so that you don't send us again. But that's, that's like an old trick.
Yes.
They're already wise to that. My wife is onto it. Yes, we celebrated our, how many years was it, Keela?
You're at 28.
Our 28th wedding anniversary yesterday. So Gila was very clever in Israel. She said, happy anniversary, Mom. Which, like right in the kitchen. So he says, you're going to have to go and you have to figure out like the terrain and what's what, who belongs to what, write it and come back. Then the hischalku osa l'shiv'a chalakim, Yehuda yamod al gvulo minegev, ubeit Yosef yamdu al gvulo mitzafon. Then you have to, there's 7 tribes. You have to divide it into 7 portions. Again, they're not equal portions. They are proportional based on the population of how they were when they left Mitzrayim, which is why it was a problem for Ephraim and Manasseh, as we discussed last time. But Yehuda is going to remain at his border to the south. Yosef will remain to the border at the north. So you have basically the rest of the country, going up towards, north of, I can't put it on the screen, but north of, you have, how do we put it that way? Kind of like north of the Shomron, going up towards Haifa, and north of there in the Galil and the Golan, those areas. So it's divided between Yisachar, Zevulun, Asher, Naphtali, and Dan is sort of on the coast, like that. So that's what he says you're going to do. And Yosef remained at the border of the north. Then, Va'atem tichtivu, or in Pasuk Vav, Es ha'aretz, Shiva chalakim, V'havesem elayhena, V'yarisi lechem garol po lefnei Hashem Elokeinu. Then you'll describe in writing 7 portions of the land and bring it to me here, and I will draw lots to you, and it'll be before Hashem our God. They had to have the 7 portions. Then he says we're going to have a gorel. We're going to have sort of this lottery. Ki ein chelik lalavim b'kirbechem, Ki kuhunas Hashem nachlaso, the God urevein v'chatzi shevet Menashe lachu nachlaso me'evel liyardei mizracha, asher nasa lehem Moshe eved Hashem. And in case you were wondering who's included in this and who's not included in this, Levium have no share in this because Levium have again, Mimi, I'm sorry, there's other benefits of marrying a Levi, and that they have Hashem as their portion, and also the Kohanim don't. And then Reuven, God, and Chatzi shevet Menashe, they were in Transjordan. Okay, and that's what Moshe had promised them. So, pasuk ches, vayakumu ha'anashim vayelechu. The emissaries, these three from each tribe, they got up and they went. Vayitzav Yehoshua es halchim lichtov es aretz lemor lechu v'hishalchu ba'aretz v'kisvu osa v'shuvu elai upo ashlich lechem garol lefnei Hashem b'shilo. And he says, okay, those are going to go. You're going to have to write about the land. Go walk through the land. Describe it in writing, return to me. I will cast a lottery before you here in Shiloh. One thing I don't have a great answer on, and anybody has a thought on this, why this emphasis on the writing? It's like they didn't. I guess they didn't have such stellar record.
More
Right.
reliable. It's more reliable writing.
It's
Right.
proof. It's living proof.
Yeah, it's like it's contractual.
It's a record.
Right. I think that because when it keeps saying that what keeps coming to mind for me, when we atem kisvu, and I mean you could count here how many times the verb of kotev is used. I see it here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. But I'm reminded of the end of Devarim when Moshe Rabbeinu is sort of giving his swan song and he says, V'atem kisvu lachem es Shiur hazos. There's a big emphasis on writing things down. I don't know about you, but I don't write things down anymore. It's hard. First of all, I have the most god-awful penmanship ever. Both my parents are doctors, so I have no shot at having any good handwriting. And I find that the less I write, the worse that it gets. I also have the terrible combination that I can't type. I was raised just at the time where like computers were just starting, but not enough, so I didn't really type. But writing things down, everything, we take voice notes, we take screenshots, right? You remember there used to be things called an autograph book, right? I still have mine. I have it signed by Tigger when I went to Disney. My parents took me to Disney. An autograph book, and like you need to fold the pages into like triangles, and the next one, the next one used to have like the 8th grade class would sign it. Now, what do? People just take pictures. Nobody signs things anymore. Like, oh, well, take a selfie with me, take a picture with me. So writing things down and having a record, I all the time when I have notes or this and that, and I file them away, and I say to this, Gila, don't really listen, but I say like, I hope that one day my kids will find this and be like, oh, so that's what he was talking about. Like one day they're gonna go through it and say, oh, here's this and here's that. I have notes from every wedding that I've done. I have notes from every funeral that I've done. I have notes from every simcha, and I keep them and I file them away because and they come in handy, by the way, when when it's the next iteration of the simcha, when the marriage turns to children and the children turn to bar mitzvahs, like things like that. After a number of years doing this, it actually comes in handy. So here he's telling them, write it down. We're not talking about where are you spending the summer? We're talking about what's your nachala, what's your portion in the land of Israel. And also, the first time that we're told of a portion in the land of Israel, in Parshas Chayei Sarah with Abraham, the Torah spends an inordinate amount of time and space and psukim dealing with the purchase of Ma'aretz HaMachpelah. And then again, in the end of Vayechi, when Yaakov is buried, it talks about Asher Kana Avraham, show our rightful ownership and deed, so to speak. So this is the deed. So he tells them that they have to write it down, and we're going to do it in Shiloh. Shiloh is what's considered a holy place, and perhaps with divine inspiration, then we'll know who gets which portion. It'd be amazing if they found like these scrolls, right? That'd be pretty cool. Forget the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is much, much cooler. So they went and they transversed the ark. Now, also part of it's similar also to when Avraham was in land of Canaan. Hashem told him after he promised him progeny and land, he said, "Kum hisaleches haaretz la'arko l'rachbah." go transverse the land, its width and its breadth and its length. And part of that is what we call kinyan. When you acquire, how do you, so if I want to buy something here, I have here a glasses case. We have a lot of those in our house. So if I want to buy this glasses case, so I go to my wife's office and I give them money and they give me glasses. If I want to purchase a whatever, I could use a contract. How do you purchase land? So land, it's not the easiest thing. You have to have a deed, you have to have a contract. But one of the ways to acquire land is actually by using it. We're not in Daf Yomi's and Bava Kama, when they get to Bava Basra, one of the main things is basically like squatters. Squatters, if they're on a land for a certain amount of time, 3 years, and they're not contested, they can actually claim ownership to the land. So land, you have to transverse it. So when Avram did it, and this is almost like reenacting what Avram did, is that he says, go walk around. They transverse the whole land. They wrote everything down in 7 portions on the Sefer, and they came back to Yehoshua and Shiloh. Vayashlech lehem Yehoshua garel b'Shiloh l'fnei Hashem. Vayichalek sham Yehoshua sa'aretz l'fnei Yisrael kamach l'kosam. So Yehoshua cast a lottery in Shiloh before Hashem. Maybe Yehoshua had one of those like little orange booths, the lotto booths. You ever see those in Israel? The lotto, this guy that sits in the lotto booth all day. If you watched Shtisel, it was like the sister or the one who was married, like she had an old flame who was like the lottery guy in the booth. It was great. Again, steel trap for nonsense. And he says, we have the lottery, and they're going to have it according to the way it should be divided. Okay, paragraph bake. Next pasuk Yud Aleph. Vaya'al goral matei b'nei Binyamin l'mishpachosam. Vayitzei gvul goralam bein b'nei Yehuda bein b'nei Yosef. So the children of Benjamin came up. Now, it's not by accident, because we did the main 2. We did Yehoshua. Well, first of all, we did Reuven and Menashe and Gad because they were not in Israel proper. We get into Israel, we do Yosef and we do Yehuda. When Yosef and Yehuda is Ephraim and Menashe, because those are the 2 leaders of the tribes. Yehuda, the kingship coming from King David. Yosef, of course, that kingship, Mashiach ben Yosef, however you want to look at that. But those are the 2 main characters that led the tribes. So then who would come next? So obviously it's going to be Binyamin, for 2 reasons. First of all, it's Binyamin. We love Binyamin. You know, Binyamin is the prodigal son. He's like the Yosef that never was, because his father doesn't want to let him go. And by the way, when you look at the story especially in Parshas Vayigash, you know, the father doesn't want to let Binyamin go. He's my only son. I don't want to lose him. You'd think he's like 5 years old, right? No, he's 30 years old. He's 30 years old. He has 10 children. 10 children he has, and his father doesn't want to let him go. Now, by the way, I know plenty of 30-year-olds whose parents don't want to let them go either. But he is the one that because Yaakov's beloved was Rachel, and he lost so much when she died at a young age, and also Yosef. So Binyamin has this special part. And Binyamin, we'll see here that what happens. It was between Yehuda and Yosef. But we know what happens is that that's actually the northern part of Yerushalayim. And as I mentioned last time, much of a good section of Harabayit and the Beit HaMikdash and the Kodesh Kadasha was in the territory of Binyamin, because that could only, and obviously it doesn't exist yet, but it can only exist in a property where there is no fraternal strife. One of the things that follows us around all the time, besides the golden calf, is the sale of Yosef. So if you look at, for instance, the story of the 10 martyrs, the Medrash, a very powerful Medrash, the Medrash says that the 10 martyrs, which we read on Yom Kippur, we read on Tisha B'Av, is sort of payback, or it's a punishment for the 10 brothers who sold Yosef. But Binyamin wasn't there. Binyamin wasn't a part of that. So since he wasn't a part of Yosef and his brothers, so the Beis HaMikdash, or certainly the Kodesh Kodashim, the Gemara describes like a thin sort of like neck of property, of territory that's in Binyamin. That's the only thing the only place it could possibly be was in the territory of Binyamin. And you'll see it today. So if you leave, let's say if you leave Yerushalayim and you go north of Yerushalayim, not like the Jerusalem Tel Aviv highway, if you go, let's say, past Piskat Zev and Givat Zev, you know, the light rail stops over there. But if you keep going, and then you're going to go into, let's say, the Psagot winery. Anybody ever been to the Psagot winery? It's beautiful. It's great. They have a beautiful hall. They make weddings there. The scenery just overlooking the hills. It's just absolutely stunning. And they have a nice restaurant too. And so right when you enter that road on the north part of Yerushalayim, you'll see a big sign. It says Binyamin, and there's a wolf, because that's Binyamin Ze'evi Truf. So the sign for Binyamin is a wolf. So that's the territory of Binyamin, much like when you are leaving Yerushalayim and you see it says Yehuda. It's the territory of Yehuda. And then when you get past Beit Shemesh, you see the next area, et cetera, et cetera. And so we have a number of years ago, we helped, we sponsored a fire truck, which is now located in Akko. And Akko, on the coast there, what's the name of that fire station? It's called the Zavulun fire station. The Zavulun is on the coast. So, and a lot of it's based also on the words that Yaakov and Moshe said. Okay, so there it is, there between Yehuda and Yosef. Vayhi lehem hagvul lepas tzafon min hayarden, va'allah hagvul al kesef Yericho mitzafon, va'allah bahar yama, v'hayu totzasav midbara beis oven. So the northern border was from the Jordan and descended to the flank of Yericho on the north and ascended the mountain to the west, and the outlets were to the wilderness of Beit Oven. Again, what we have, if you look on the previous map, it should be there as well. And v'avar misham hagvul luza el kesef luza negba he Beit El. V'yarad hagvul atros adar al har asher minegel Beit Charon tachton. And the northern, there they passed towards Luz, which we hear, of course, many times in the Chumash, particularly with Yaakov Avinu. Luz is always affiliated with Beit El. If you go past the Psagot winery, that's like the first exit, and they have the big Rami Levy over there where everybody goes shopping. And then the next exit on the left is Beit El. The entrance in Beit El, it's really cool that like how every town has like a specific symbol for their town, what it looks like a logo type of thing. So in Beit El, the logo is a ladder that goes up, representing the dream of Yaakov Avinu. It's really, really neat. So he says you go, and Luz is always associated with Beit El. So they would pass Luz to the southern flank of Luz, which is Beit El, and the border ascended to Atroth Adar, to the mountain that is the south of Lower Beit Charon. So you can imagine that the archaeologists, they just have a field day with this, right? Maybe we should have like a class trip. It might take like a month or two to go through all these places, but I'm down. I mean, I'm you don't have to ask me twice. V'ta'ar hagavul v'nasav lefat yam negba min ahar asher al Beit Charon negba v'hayu tosaf akira baal hikirat yarim ir b'nei Yehuda zot pa'at yam. And then the border curved and circled around the western side, going southward from the mountain that faces Beit Charon on the south, and the outwards were toward Kiryat Baal, which is Kiryat Yarim, the city and the children of Yehuda. This was the western side. So the outskirts of, so remember I talked last time, Kiryat Yarim is what today we call Telstone. So if you take the Jerusalem-Tel Aviv highway, the first exit that you have off the highway is Mevaseret. The second exit is really the big thing is Abu Ghosh. But if you go through Abu Ghosh, or if you go to the next exit, you can get off in Kiryat Yarim, which is Telstone. So in the back of that word, like Malach HaMisha, Haradar, that goes all the way into the territory of Binyamin. That's what it is. This is the western part of Binyamin. And the southern side was from the edge of Kiryat Yarim, and the border went out from the west and went out to the spring of the waters in the Toch. This is very, very specific boundaries. The only question is, like, do we know what they are? Now, then they knew what it was. Today, do we say, I know we have different opinions on what's what, but pretty much we know the territory, how it goes. V'yorad hagvul el k'tzei hahar shel pei al pnei gei ben hinom asher be'emek refaim tzafona v'yorad gei hinom al kesef yevusi negba v'yorad ein rogel. And as we discussed this last time, the border went to the edge of the mountain that faces the valley of Hinnom, Gehenna, right? That's where Gehenna comes from, the valley of Gehinnom, which is the northern valley of Rephaim, which is why the valley of where you have Chotzori Otzer, where you have the artist colony, and you keep going down where they have the food truck festival, that's the valley of Ben Hinnom. And on the top of it, where the Begin Museum is, and then you have Tachana Rishona, and that street that goes right there, right by the Orient Hotel, that's the beginning of the street called, because of this, Emek Rephaim, otherwise known as Emek, or if you're a seminary student, it's Emek. Right, Kila? And then it would go to the Yevusi. Now, you see, we go where? To the southern flank of the Yevusi, this in Rogel. What's the southern flank of the Yevusi? This is, of course, the old city of Yerushalayim. Gehinnom, the valley of Hinnom, is right next to the old city. When you come out of Shar HaShpot, And you come out of they call it the dung gate, which I never liked that name, but I suppose it's garbage. Why they call it dung gate, I don't know. When you come out and the buses have to make a right and you go circle around the old city and you can see the valley on your left, and that's Gehenna, Gei Ben Hinnom, and that's exactly what he's talking about. V'toar mitzafon v'yotze ein shemesh v'yotze el glilos asher nochach malei adumim v'yorad Evan Bohan ben Ruvain. And then it curved from the north and went out to Ein Shemesh and went out to Gililot, which was across the Malei Adumim. I don't know if this is consistent with the current day Malei Adumim. It could be. And then descended toward the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuven. I just want to check one thing here. It really, yeah, it doesn't give me stuff. Not this. It could be. It actually it is. It probably is. Because if you look at, I'll put this on the screen. I don't know if you could see it. Oh, I have to that's on the blurry. Oh, there you go. There you go. So Binyamin is like this strip, but it goes all the way to the Dead Sea kind of area. This is what happens when I don't use my own computer. But that's it's kind of like a thin strip like this, but it does stretch towards Malei Adumim. So Malei Adumim, which is, of course, when you leave Yerushalayim going towards the Dead Sea, they have all these new roads now. So it's like you just tunnels and this is roads. But if you go, when you have the signs that tell you this much below sea level, this much below sea level. So at the top of that, before you start heading down below sea level towards the Dead Sea, you get to the bottom, it's like, you see all the olive trees. And if you go straight, you can get baptized. If you go left, you go up to Beit Shan. If you go right, you go to En Gedi. That's kind of like, like the end of the world. But the top of the mountain in Malei Adumim, and then after that is Mitzpeh Yericho, places like that, all overlooking Yericho. Okay, so V'avar al Kesef Mula Aravat Tzafona V'yara Haravasa, and then it passes the northern flank opposite the plain, and then it descends to the plain. V'avar HaGvul El Kesef Beis Chagla Tzafona, and V'hayu Totzos HaGvul El Shon Yam HaMelech Tzafona El Ktsei Yarden Negba Zegvul Negev. The border then passes the northern flank of Beit Hagla. The border outlets were to the northern tip of the Dead Sea, or the Salt Sea, they call it, Yam HaMelech, and the southern end of the Jordan. This was the southern border. The Jordan, Hayarden Yigbol Oso Lefas Kedma, Zos Nachlas B'nei Binyamin L'Gvul Oseh Saviv L'Mishpachosam. The Jordan was the border on the eastern side, and this is the territory of Binyamin, according to that. So we have the 7, and what's going to do is going to give us, by the way, details. Binyamin seems to get a little bit more detail than the others, maybe because it was just more complicated about what was surrounding it. But that's the structure here. It gives us the territorial boundaries and the markers, and then followed by the tribes and their names. So let's see. V'hayu 21. V'hayu Ha'arim Matei B'nei Binyamin Mishpachosehem Yericho Beit Chagla V'Emek Ketzitz Ubeit Ha'arava Tzmarayim Ubeit El V'Avim Ha'Para V'Afra Ukfar Ha'amona V'Hafni V'Gava Arim Shtei Masrei V'Chatzerhem Givon V'Harama Beirot V'Hamitzpeh V'Hakfira V'Hamotza V'Rekem V'Yirpe'el V'Tarala V'Tzela Ha'elaf Ha'Yivusi Yerushalayim. Oh, look at that. We have a mention of Yerushalayim again. Givat Kirat Arim Arba Asrei V'Chatzerhem Zot Nachlas B'nei Binyamin L'Shvachasa. So we have all these places here. You have Yericho, Beit Chagla, Emek Keziz, Beit Charava. Here it mentions also, by the way, Motza. Motza is also when you leave Yerushalayim and you're going down towards after Mivaseret. There's a that big curve on the road. That's the Motza Junction, Motza Beit Zayit over there, and then you have the Elef, and then you have Yerushalayim, which ultimately will become 14 cities and the villages. This is the heritage of the children of Binyamin according to their families. Okay, that's Binyamin. This is terribly, terribly interesting. Let's go to Shimon. Yutes. Vayetzei hagarol hasheni l'Shimon l'matei b'nei Shimon l'mishpachosam v'yinach l'sim b'tov nachlas b'nei Yehuda. And Shimon, as we had discussed, that Shimon became so small, and because of sort of the downturn that their tribe took versus the upturn that the tribe of Levi took, let's say spiritual manner. So Shimon, according to the Helmer, but however, their heritage was in the middle of Yehuda. they become their property, their territory is subsumed under the territory of Yehuda. V'yi lehem be'nachalasam be'er Sheva v'Sheva meloda. So Be'er Sheva area is in Shimon. V'chatzar Shual u'balav ha'etzem ve'el Tolad u'v'tul v'charma v'tziklag u'beit ha'markavos v'chatzar Susa u'beit levaot v'sharuchen arim shlosha tzvei v'chatzreihem. So they had all these places. By the way, you could see today if you go to Ziklag, if you go down south by Beersheba, you'll see this place Ziklag, and it's one of those things like when you're driving, you see the brown signs in Israel, not the regular road signs. When you see brown signs, which mark something historic, a grave or something that's of note, from a tourist point of view, that's something we pay attention to. So they have 13 cities in their villages, and then they have Ayin Rimon ve'Eter v'Ashan Arim Arba v'Chatzreihem. Ayin Rimon Esther. So this is again like Rimon crater, right? You know they have the Bereshit Hotel. I was there. I was in Mitzvah Rimon a few weeks ago when they have our partnership. We have one of our partner cities that we have in Metro West is with Kibbutz Erez. So Kibbutz Erez, they now are in Mitzvah Rimon, right next to the Bereshit Hotel. They made a cute thing, you know, their logo, you know, it's like a typical kibbutz logo with like tools and this and that, but it said Ein lanu erez acheret. The term is usually we say Ein lanu eretz acheret, we have no other land, but they made a play on that play on words, and Ein lanu erez acheret. Remarkable people, remarkable. It's really something. Anyway, so yeah, these 13 cities. This is Shimon, and then the Chol hachatzrim asher zortim ha'ila abalas b'ramav negev zos nachlas b'nei b'nei Shimon l'shbuchasam mechevel b'nei Yehuda nachlas b'nei Shimon ki haya chelik b'nei Yehuda rav mehem v'yinchalu b'nei Shimon b'toch nachlasam. So the heritage of the children of Shimon was from the portion of the children of Yehuda because the lot of Yehuda was too large for them. Therefore, Shimon received their heritage. Again, they're so small. Yehuda's large. They become, in effect, part of Yehuda. Let's see Zevulun. This is going to be all on the final. I'm going to give you a blank map with dots on it. And you're going to have to mark what the name of the place is and what tribe it was in. I guarantee you I would fail that miserably. Vayal Hagaral Hashlishi Livnei Zvulun Mishpachasam. Then we have Zvulun, the third one, and it was Ad Sarid. V'alag Zvulun liyama umarala faga bedabasha supagal anachal ashal pnei Yoknaam. The border ascended to the west and reached to Dabesha, to read the river that is alongside Yoknaam. Yoknaam, when you're driving up the coast from Tel Aviv, Herzliya, Netanya, and then you want to head towards, let's say, the Kinneret, that junction is you always go through Yoknaam. They built a nice new road. It's not so much traffic anymore. There's a tunnel, right? And they have it, and they have also the offshoot from the beginning of that junction. There's a big high-tech city actually in Yoknaam also as well. That's what it's known for. So I'm just trying to modernize this. Vishav misarid kedma mizrach hashemesh al kislot tavor v'yatzela davrat v'ala yafia. Then it returned from Sarid eastward towards the rising sun on the border of Kislot Tabor. It went out to Davrat, went to Yafia, and then Misham of Kedma Mizracha Gita Chefer Itan Katsin v'Yatza Rimona Matar Hanaya v'Nasav Asa Gvul Mitzafon Chanatan v'Ayutot Tzatzov Gei Yiftach El v'Katat v'Nehalal v'Shimron v'Idala u'Beit Lachem Arim Shtei Mesrei v'Chatzreihem Zos Nachlas B'nei Zvulun v'Shvasam Harim El v'Chatzreihem. So that it went east to Chefer, Rimon. Again, these are all the places that are already heading up north. And this is Zvulun. Let's just do, since we're doing Zvulun, let's just finish off with Yisachar, because you can't have Yisachar and Zvulun. By the way, do you know the special connection between Yisachar and Zvulun? There's a famous term that we say Yisachar-Zvulun relationship. Familiar with that?
One was a merchant and one was a learner.
Right. So when we say today Yisachar-Zvulun, you know what that means? I'm looking for such an arrangement, by the way. If you ever wonder why is it that so many people like in certain communities, let's say when a boy gets married, that he's going, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna sit and learn for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. I'm gonna sit in yeshiva in Yerushalayim or in Lakewood or whatever it is. Part of that is called the Yisachar-Zvulun relationship, and that someone who supports someone who's learning Torah, because as you said, one were merchants, one were Torah studiers. But if you support someone who's learning Torah, and I mean it like earnestly and honestly, and but if you do that, then you actually share the reward with them. So you have equal portion. They get the reward for learning, but as much as reward they get for learning, you get the same reward for enabling them to learn. Would you ever wonder, like, how do they fundraise so well for all these yeshivas? Like, what's the hook? Because that's exactly it. Because like if you have a chelik and they're learning. Now, we can get into the whole conversation about learning full time or not. I do believe that there are some people who should do it. There's no question about it. And people who are not going, it's like, well, you ever tried? You ever try sitting at in front of a Gemara for 10 hours straight? Not the easiest thing in the world, let alone many more hours of that in a day and every single day, and and foregoing some of life's pleasures, whatever it might be. So anyway, that's Yisachar and Zevulun. So that's what when you did Zevulun, we have to do Yisachar when you. So Yisachar Yatzah girl Arvi, they get the fourth lot according to their family. V'higvulam Yisraela v'akusos v'shunem v'chafarayim v'shiyom v'anacharas v'harabit v'kishyon v'evetz v'remes v'ein ganim v'ein chada v'beit patzeitz ufaga gvul b'tavor v'shachat sima v'beit shemesh v'ayu toltzaot gvulam hayarden arim sheish esrei v'chatzreihem zos nachlas b'atei b'nei Yisachar l'pshachosam b'arim v'chatzreihem. So their border is Yezreel, the Jezreel Valley, Shunem, and all these other places, Beit Shemesh. So next time we'll have a proper map, then we'll be able to look at the bigger picture of everyone together, as we're going to finish then we have to finish with Naphtali and Asher and Dan. So, and those are the remaining 7. And then what happens is then we talk about the cities, the Ari Miklat, and then we have the cities of the Levim and the Kohanim, and then we have basically like Yehoshua's goodbye. And that ends the book. And then we have to start thinking about what's next. Before we have a rebellion on our hands about like what are we learning next. But because I know there's lots of different opinions, but I'll let everybody else fight it out. But I need to now I feel like I have to like get a limousine or something to pick up my wife. She's this big celebrity now. I don't know, right, Gila? So yeah, if I watch the let me see if I could put it. Yeah, it was posted. It's on the if you go on the Today Show in the 3rd hour, there's like apparently there's halakim, and the 3rd hour there, and it says why everybody needs an eye exam, so it's on there. And also I found out today how many people really watch the Today Show because everybody was texting me saying, "Oh my God, your wife's on TV." I'm like, "Oh, you watch the Today Show," which I don't. So anyway, stay warm, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you. Wait, are people around next week?
Okay.
Yeah, because it's Yeshiva week, but I'm here. I'll be here. Okay. All right. Bye.